What is going on, guys? Welcome back to Bring the Juice. In today's episode, we are going to be doing something a little bit different. So we are actually going to be working with Bookmakers TV today. So be sure to go check them out. And today we are going to be discussing basically an all AFC South roster team. So we're picking the best players from each position on the AFC South. We're including a few backups and a few different positions. But we are going to do this, and so I'm looking forward to this. This is going to be a lot of fun. It's always good to look within our division, kind of talk about some players that are really good, because there are players, like as Colts content creators, sometimes it can be easy to look at your own players, right, and say, oh, we got the best in every position, but that's not the case. And so it's always great to look at, all the different positions in the AFC South. And so without further ado, let's start, Derek, by talking about the offense with the quarterback position. Who you got?
I think you and I both came to the consensus that the quarterback position we would have is for Mattryan. Given all things considered, no quarterback in the AFC South has really had an easy going so far this season, but I think everyone, including their mothers, said before the season started that Mattryan was going to be the consensus best quarterback in the AFC South as it stood right now. We wonder if, Trevor Lawrence at some point is going to take that crown or if something's going to happen. But right now, if I was wanting an AFC South team to be led by any quarterback right now, I would want it to be Mattryan. So that's where I think we stand on that.
Well, you do wonder also, obviously the fumbles are a huge deal, but Mattryan with a competent offensive line, what could he do? And I think he's shown when he does have protection for the most part, he's been a really solid quarterback. And I think it's a little bit of an underwhelming pick, but that just shows you how bad quarterback play is in the AFC South right now. That Mattryan, who leads the NFL interceptions, is our pick here. That just kind of goes to show how bad it's been. But anyway, let's move on now to the running back position, a position that's definitely not devoid of talent in the AFC South. And the two positions we have, the two guys that we have, Jonathan Taylor and Derek Henry, that one's pretty easy. Both these guys, some of the best running backs in the NFL. I don't think there's any debate here, Derek. This is probably the easiest one to pick. Jonathan Taylor, Derek Henry, you can interchange them. They're both some of, if not the best running backs in the NFL.
Yeah, very easy one there. And, it's crazy too, because you're looking at, ironically enough, when you look at the stats wise, the Jacksonville running backs and even Dameon Pierce, who is a rookie out of Florida, both are having phenomenal seasons, starting off really well, but giving new life to their respective teams. And obviously their situation is a little different than Jonathan Taylor and Derek Henry. So not to really exclude them too much, because the AFC South is not void of running back talent. Every single one of these teams has a really good running back on their roster right now. So good problem to have there. But yeah, when you talk about it, Jonathan Taylor, Derek Henry, two of the top 5 best running backs in the league, no question about it. Going to wide receivers now. And we selected 6 here. We selected 6 because normally teams will have 5 or 6 wide receivers on their active roster when they go into it. So not in any particular order. We tried to keep it in order, but you can interchange a few of these if you wanted to. Michael Pittman, Brandon Cooks, Christian Kirk, Alec Pierce, Marvin Jones, and Robert Woods. So you had 2 wide receivers from Indianapolis. You had 2 wide receivers from the Jacksonville Jaguars, 1 from the Texans, and 1 from the Tennessee Titans.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. You look at, Brandon Cooks and what he's done with the lack of quarterback play. He's consistently been a really, really good wide receiver. So, and then Christian Kirk's having a pretty good year as well in Jacksonville. So it's good to see all these wide receivers in the AFC South, really performing. You talk about Pittman. We think he's probably the best one out of the bunch. But then also you have Alec Pierce, who's really been coming on recently. So there's a lot of talent there in the wide receiver position in the AFC South. Noticing that Tennessee only has 1, we'd probably say out of all 6 of these guys, Robert Woods is probably the one we put on last, right, in terms of talent, in terms of overall as a player right now. And that just goes to show Tennessee's kind of struggling right now with Treylon Burks out for a while. They're really struggling at wide receiver and kind of getting some weapons there for Ryan Tannehill.
Yep, totally agree. We go to the tight ends here, and this one was a little difficult for us because, there's one position that, the AFC South is kind of void of when it comes to top talent is the tight end position. Three guys not particularly in order, Jeff Swaim, Evan Ingram, and Mo Alley Cox, tight end from Jacksonville, Tennessee, and Indianapolis. And, it's funny too, because, the Texans, you got Brevin Jordan, who definitely can play. OJ Howard, who, a lot of people had high hopes for coming into the NFL. He just never ended up panning out. They have some decent talent there, but, there's really not much to go off of this group. Like collectively, there's just not a lot statistic wise to get excited about this group.
Not really. No, it's pretty boring. Not a whole lot there. Some guys that were former high round picks, Evan Ingram, you talked about OJ Howard as well. But then there's just a lot of guys. They're just solid. They're nothing spectacular. They don't have a Travis Kelce type of tight end here at all in the AFC South. So that's for the tight ends. And then moving on to the offensive line. So this one was kind of interesting because a few of these positions were kind of difficult to figure out. I mean, the easiest one is probably left tackle. Laramie Tunsil has been one of the best left tackles in the league for a long time. You have obviously Quentin Nelson at left guard, one of the best guards in football when he's healthy and ready to go. Center positions where I'm kind of like iffy because we would say Ryan Kelly a lot of times. We do have him on this list. I could also throw in Ben Jones because Ryan Kelly has really been struggling a lot. It's kind of a struggle at center. I'm kind of torn on it because like we know what Ryan Kelly has been, but he really hasn't been that this year. So it's kind of like I could see either way somebody picking one of these two guys. So I'll just kind of list them both there because it's hard to just say Kelly with how poor he's been playing this year. Mm-hmm. But moving on to right guard, you have Brandon Sheriff, who I think he plays left guard typically, but you can move these guys around. This is our roster, so we can move them around. So I think could be a really good right guard. And then Titus Howard actually will be our right tackle. So we have two tackles, both from Houston. The offensive line, the interior, two guys from Indianapolis and one guy from Jacksonville.
Yeah, I mean, there's one thing that the Texans have secretly done over the past few years has been able to get some relatively decent offensive linemen. They gave up the bag to bring Laramie Tunsil in when Deshaun Watson was there, right? To try to bring some fortitude to the offensive line, kind of like what, Indianapolis did with Quentin Nelson. I mean, when Nelson came in and started making that offensive line elite when he first came in, everyone was really hoping to find that next great offensive lineman that's going to come in, fortify the position, allow your quarterback to do what they got to do. Laramie Tunsil, Titus Howard definitely do that. Brandon Sheriff's been really great. Quentin Nelson, not as great this year, but has still been, the second best offensive lineman in the NFL ever since he's been drafted. And, Ryan Kelly, like you said, that's interchangeable. If Ryan Kelly can return to what we know of him as, then Ryan Kelly's definitely the best center in the AFC South. Mm-hmm. But we go ahead, move to the defensive side of the ball now. So we did have a few backups for these positions. I don't know why we had so many of them here, but we'll do that anyway. The defensive line for the AFC South is very talented. Josh Allen, the young one from Jacksonville, DeForest Buckner and Jeffrey Simmons in the middle. You get Harold Landry on the other end. And then for your backups, we had Yannick Ngakoue and Danico Autry. And for the backups for the middle, we had Grover Stewart and Tyre Tart. Again, Josh Allen, Harold Landry. Harold Landry is a much better run-stopping defensive end, but he definitely can still rush the passer. Josh Allen, when he gets going, Josh Allen's just impossible to stop. DeForest Buckner, Jeffrey Simmons, some of the best guys in the business at what they do. Yannick Ngakoue and Danico Autry, veterans in this league who have been in this actual division for a long time. And Grover Stewart and Tyre Tart, who are insanely good run-stopping defensive tackles. So there's a lot of great defensive line talent that you can put for this roster.
Yes, there is. I mean, my gosh, quarterbacks aren't going to have a chance with this defensive line. Oh, my goodness. So much talent and so deep in the backups and guys that can really get after the passer. So, yeah, I would say if the AFC South has a strength, it's definitely the defensive line. No question about that. But now we move to the linebackers. Talk about a couple guys here. And ironically enough, Derek, a lot of these guys are actually from the Indianapolis Colts. Now, we haven't seen one guy all year, Shaquille Leonard. We got to put him on this list by default because when he's healthy, he's one of the best, if not the best linebackers in the NFL. Bobby Okereke, I really feel like he has turned into a really solid Pro Bowl level type of linebacker for the Colts. And then you have Zach Cunningham as well, who's always been a solid player as well. And we could potentially throw in Devin Lloyd as well, the rookie. Those are kind of our guys there. We're looking at the linebackers. We want to keep 4 guys there. Those would be the 4.
Yep, absolutely. A lot of great talent. And, we even had the idea of putting Zaire Franklin even on this list as well. I mean, it was pretty funny. The Colts linebacker group is one of the most talented, if not the most talented in all the NFL. So it's easy to put those kinds of guys there. When we move to the corners, we could have put some backups here, but we just decided to stick with the starters. And we had Stephon Gilmore, Isaiah Rodgers, and Tyson Campbell. Stephon Gilmore is actually ranked as the 3rd best corner in the NFL at this moment in time. From what we've seen through the first 5 weeks of this season, hasn't really lost much of a step from that injury that he sustained in Carolina. Isaiah Rodgers, who has speed that very few guys can match. He's just so quick and ferocious when he plays. And Tyson Campbell for the Jacksonville Jaguars, who is in his 2nd year now, making waves with that Jaguars secondary. No question that the corner group for the AFC South is still really solid.
Absolutely, yeah. And you could throw a guy like Christian Fulton on there potentially. But, yeah, I think all things to say, I think those are the guys. Unless I'm missing somebody on this AFC South, I think those are kind of the primary guys at the corner position. I just want to check Tennessee real fast before I say that, and then I look like a fool. Yeah, so that's probably what I'm going to go there for that corner position. Caleb Farley, not really that scary as well. But then you move on now to the safety position and look at some of these guys here. And this actually is one that does not have the Indianapolis Colts in it at all. You have Rayshawn Jenkins and you have Kevin Byard at your free safety. Those 2 guys are really, really solid safeties. Kevin Byard, obviously, we know him. He's been a long-time safety in this league. He's been one of the best free safeties in the NFL for nearly a decade now. So he's looking really good. What are your thoughts on the safety position?
Yeah, I put Rayshawn Jenkins in here because, people aren't talking enough about how good he's playing in Jacksonville right now. He has brought a whole new light to that secondary in Jacksonville right now, is playing with a ton of energy. He has been making some plays. So that's why I was so quick to put him in there, because he's been making plays all year long. And when you talk about Kevin Byard, I mean, no question about it, right? Best free safety in the division, no questions asked. Kevin Byard for literally the last 5 years has just been a force to be reckoned with in the backfield. So no question, these 2 guys for us. And then talking about the special teams unit here, the kicker and the punter, you had kicker Riley Patterson, and then you had, so Riley Patterson of Jacksonville, and then the punter, you have Matt Hawk for the Indianapolis Colts. Matt Hawk, who's been pinning teams inside the 20 on 75% of his punts. So he's just been an absolute force ever since coming to Indy when Rigoberto Sanchez got hurt with his ACL.
Yep. And I think that about does it for our look at the AFC South. Let us know if we missed anybody, but I think that about does it. By the way, guys, just a reminder again, we are doing this with the Bookmakers ad campaign, so be sure to go check them out. But that'll do it for this one, guys. Thank you so much. And as always, go Colts.